Okay, we're back for the second half of the Unit 7 review, picking up with question number 4. And most of these are we're not going to have to use CODAP for, so this should take a lot less time. Let's see now, during which month of the year does Raleigh have the highest amount of rainfall? Now, is this a good statistical question? And you tell me whether the data is going to be numerical or categorical. Now, during which month of the year, we're talking about 12 months that are your option here, which sounds like, that your response would be categorical. You're going to be studying the 12 months and seeing, which one has the highest amount of rainfall. So yeah, I would say this is a good statistical question, and you're looking at categorical data, because your answer is going to be in terms of months. That is categorical. All right, what was the amount of rainfall this month in Raleigh? That one sounds to me like there is one right answer. And this is not a good statistical question. We want something that has variation to it. And, when you're asking a question that has one right answer, then there's no variation and there's no statistical question to it. All right. Let's see now. Considering the snowfall in February last year in Raleigh, how far above or below average was it? Now, what you're looking at, what you're really asking to do is to go back over the Februaries of years prior. I would presume that there was a point 100 years ago, or maybe 200 years ago, where was the beginning of our record keeping. And so there is a limited number of Februaries that you have to look at, but you're looking at, what would become the average snowfall in February, and how did we compare to it last year? So I would say that's a good statistical question. Now, as to is it numerical or categorical? How far? Now, if they had simply asked, was it above or below, that's like a yes or no kind of question. But when they said, how far above or below average was it, that means that you're going to come out with a number. It was an inch above or it was 2 inches below. That is a numerical response. During which month of last year did Raleigh have the highest amount of rainfall? Now, when you're asking which month, you are having to go back to all 12 months and look at it. So there is variation in your data. So this actually is a pretty decent statistical question. Now, when you're asking which month, you didn't ask how much. You just asked which month had the highest. So that is a categorical. Okay. Now, this one we're talking about surveys, observational studies, or experimental studies. And we're asking what would be the best way to collect data for this type of question. So if you're asking the question, do potatoes grow better in sandy soil? Well, that almost begs you to ask the question, what else would they grow in? And so, now you're looking at, so can I set up an experiment with a control group and then a group that's being grown in sandy soil? Again, everything about this screams experiment. Do high school students prefer pizza? Well, yeah, you could stand in the cafeteria and watch. This actually, if you're asking them, do they prefer pizza, this sounds more like something that you would want to do a survey about. Stand at the door and ask them as they file into the cafeteria, do you prefer pizza or something else in there? And, then you'll get your answer. Now, if you were going to try and orchestrate this survey to limit the amount of bias in there, then you would ask pizza or hamburgers or whatever else they serve in there. I've been a while since I've been in there, so I don't know. But having some variation in the responses would, and pizza was one of the answers. Then if they kept checking off pizza, then yeah, I guess they do prefer pizza. All right. Are the stoplights at off ramps of I-40 onto US 70 causing traffic accidents? You stop and think about, how am I going to answer that question? What am I going to do? I can handle this one of two ways. I can either park my butt there at the intersection and watch and record what happens, which is observational. Or another way that I could approach this is that I could approach the right person in the Department of Transportation and say, do you have a record of all accidents at this intersection? And could I look at those records and make some notes as far as what is causing the accidents there? Because at some point they as part of the report that the officer writes up, they do have a tendency to say the accident was caused by this, by their investigation. So in either way, whether you are doing the observing yourself or whether you are going and getting someone else's data, this is still observational. Now, let's be clear about that. If somebody else gathered the data and you're going to them and you're reading over their shoulder, so to speak, that's observational. All right? It's not a survey and it's not an experiment. That's still observational when you find someone else's data and you use it. All right. Let's see. Finster wants to find the favorite female music artist among Anglo students. So determine which method of sampling is being used in the examples below. All right, so he stands in the atrium during lunch and asks students who pass by. That is Finster being lazy. He is letting them come to him, which is convenience. All right. Finster surveys every student in the East Building during fourth block. Now understand, during fourth block, students are all over campus, but he went to the East Building and he surveyed every student in the East Building. That's cluster. All right. He picked out a cluster, everybody in the East Building, and he got everyone in that cluster. That's all of the telltale marks of cluster sampling. All right. Finster surveys every fifth student in the cafeteria for lunch on Friday. That is your systematic. And every nth person is your dead giveaway. Okay. Now we got three more. Finster puts the name of every student in a bowl and draws 100 to seek out and survey. That would be simple random. Okay. Finster sets up an online survey and has the website address posted during the lowdown. Well, that means that people would have to look up the address and click on the survey and participate. That is voluntary. I cannot spell voluntary today. Voluntary response. And last but not least, he visits every classroom on campus during first block and surveys one student for every 10 present. All right, now first of all, he's going to every classroom. So when you think about it, that is splitting up the entire campus into probably 150 different groups. And out of those groups, he surveys one student for every 10 present. That would be that would definitely, you could be accused of having a representative sample that way. And so this is definitely stratified. There's layers. The first layer is splitting students up by classroom. The second layer is 1 for every 10. Stratified random. And again, it gets into the question of layers. There are 2 layers to this thing. There's the classroom, and then there's the 1 out of 10. So anytime you have more than 1 layer, it automatically earns the name stratified. I know that the 1 out of every 10 makes you think of systematic, and there's an element in there, but basically we come back to the issue of, I got 2 layers here. This is definitely stratified. All right, now we're talking about bias and the kinds of bias that can happen. All right, so you're going to have to pick out, I think there were 5 to begin with, so we'll look at 4 of them and we're done. Finster leaves a stack of printed surveys in the men's room near the school auditorium. Again, he's still trying to find the favorite female music artist. I'm thinking in terms of undercoverage here. Or actually, leaving the stack there, that's voluntary response. Because he's only going to get the ones, that have a dog in the fight, so to speak. He's only going to get the ones with strong opinions. Everybody else is just going to walk by and say, oh, look, new toilet paper. Now, Finster asked the students in his 3rd block class. Now, if he is looking at trying to get a sample that is representative of Enloe students, and he's asking just that one classroom, I think he is at risk of undercoverage there. He really needs a broader selection for his sample. Finster sends an email with the survey for the entire student body. That is also voluntary response. Okay. Finster asks every student on the 1200 hall if Billie Eilish is their favorite female music artist. That's adding the wording in there. If he wants to know their favorite female artist, he does not need to make a suggestion. Let them choose. So anyway, that is where we're at. I'm looking back. I really hadn't meant for 17 and 19 to be the same answer. But as I look back on them, oh, no, I see what the problem is. I know where I was asleep at the wheel, is that 19 is not a voluntary response. 19 is going to be the non-response. Because, is everybody going to respond to their email? No. Especially if he sends it out to the entire student body. He's going to have some non-response issues. There are some of y'all that just don't look at your email at all. So I'm feeling better about that. Yeah, there is an element, and is it possible to have both? Yes. I will sketch that in there. That there are elements, because you're responding to an email, there is, the element of voluntary response there. But just the fact that you get a lot of non-response means that this is going to be the larger issue about this one. So, all right, that is it for our review sheet, and hopefully you will be ready for the test.